There is a version of you that nobody sees in meetings. Nobody sees it when you are performing competence at work, navigating adult conversations, paying bills, making decisions. To everyone around you, you look like a fully formed person who has their life together. But there are moments, specific private moments, when something shifts. Someone raises their voice and your chest tightens the way it did when you were 8 years old. Someone withdraws their approval and you feel a panic that is completely disproportionate to the situation. Someone you love seems distant and suddenly you are not a grown adult anymore. You are a child standing in a hallway, waiting to find out if everything is going to be okay. And the part that confuses you most is that, intellectually, that you are an adult. You know the situation is not that serious, but the feeling does not care what you know. It arrives anyway, at full volume. And it runs the show. Today, we are going to look at exactly why that happens. Because this is not immaturity. It is not weakness. It is not a failure to grow up. It is neuroscience. And once you understand the mechanism, you will never look at that scared child inside you the same way again. Let's start with something called the emotional brain. Your brain is not one unified system. It is more like a building with several floors. The top floor is your prefrontal cortex, the rational, logical, planning mind. The floor you use to write emails, solve problems, and have adult conversations. But deep in the basement of that building lives a much older structure, the limbic system. And at the center of that system is a small, almond-shaped region called the amygdala. The amygdala does not think. It does not reason. It does not care that you are 34 years old and sitting in a safe room. Its only job is threat detection, and it has been doing that job since you were born. Here is what most people do not know. The amygdala does not just detect threats in the present, it stores them from the past. Neuroscientists call this emotional memory encoding. Every time you experience something frightening, confusing, or overwhelming as a child, a parent's anger, a prolonged silence, the feeling of being too much or not enough, your amygdala filed it. Not as a memory you can consciously access and examine, as a template, a pattern, a blueprint of what danger feels like. And here is where it gets deeply personal. That blueprint does not age. Psychologists have a name for what happens when an adult's present-day experience triggers a childhood emotional template. They call it an emotional flashback, not the cinematic kind with vivid images and sounds, a quieter, more invisible kind. A sudden flood of feeling that belongs to a much younger version of you, arriving without warning in your adult body. The term was developed by psychotherapist Pete Walker, who spent decades working with adults who grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments. And his finding was this: when a child grows up in a home where love felt conditional, where anger was unpredictable, where their emotional needs were consistently minimized or ignored, that child's nervous system learns to live in a permanent state of low-grade alert. They develop what Walker called the inner critic, a voice that is not yours but sounds like yours, a voice that says you are too sensitive, you are overreacting, you are a burden, you need too much. That inner critic was not born with you. It was installed. It was assembled from the messages, spoken and unspoken, that your early environment delivered over and over until they became indistinguishable from your own thoughts. And that inner critic, combined with a nervous system wired for alert, follows you into adulthood like a shadow you cannot shake. But why does it feel so physical? This is the part that most people do not understand. When you are triggered, when someone's tone of voice or a moment of rejection sends you back to that 8-year-old in the hallway, what you are experiencing is not just an emotion, it is a full physiological event. Neuroscientist Stephen Porges developed what he called polyvagal theory. The theory describes how your nervous system has 3 distinct states it moves between. The first is safety, the calm, connected, present state where your rational mind is fully online. The second is mobilization, fight or flight, heart rate up, muscles tense, hypervigilant. The third is shutdown, freeze, collapse, disconnection. The feeling of going blank or numb when the overwhelm becomes too much. Here is what matters for you. Adults who grew up in unpredictable environments spend a disproportionate amount of time in states 2 and 3. Their nervous system learned that state 1 genuine safety, was unreliable, that it could be taken away at any moment, so it stopped fully settling into it, which means that even now, as an adult in a genuinely safe life, your body is still running old drills, still scanning for threat, still ready to mobilize or collapse. Not because you are broken, because your nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do. It is protecting a child who needed protection. It just has not received the update that the child is safe now. There is a concept in developmental psychology called the wounded inner child. I know that phrase can sound abstract or even slightly uncomfortable, but let me make it concrete for you. The wounded inner child is not a metaphor for weakness. It is a neurological reality. When a child's emotional needs go unmet, consistently, repeatedly over time, the brain does not simply move on. It arrests. Specifically, the emotional development of the child freezes at the point of the wound. This is why a 35-year-old can handle a high-pressure boardroom presentation without flinching and then fall completely apart when a partner seems even slightly cold. The boardroom activates your adult brain. The cold partner activates the frozen 8-year-old. Two different operating systems, running simultaneously in the same body. Psychologists call this ego state fragmentation. You are not one unified self. You are a collection of selves, the capable adult, the frightened child, the people pleaser, the overachiever, all assembled in response to the environments you had to survive. And certain triggers act like switches, flipping you out of your adult state and into a much earlier one before you even have time to notice it is happening. So what do? The single most important thing to understand is this. You cannot think your way out of an emotional flashback. You cannot reason with the frightened child using your adult logic. That is like trying to calm a terrified 4-year-old by explaining macroeconomics. The language is wrong. The channel is wrong. What the frightened child needs is not explanation. It is reparenting. The first tool is what therapists call the witness practice. When you feel that disproportionate fear arrive, that tightening in the chest, that sudden smallness, pause. Do not fight it. Do not analyze it. Instead, place one hand on your chest and say internally, or out loud if you are alone, I see you. I know this feeling. You are safe now. This sounds simple. The neuroscience behind it is not. What you are doing is activating your prefrontal cortex, your adult brain, and using it to send a direct signal to your amygdala. You are not bypassing the emotion. You are parenting it. Research by psychologist Kristen Neff on self-compassion shows that this kind of internal, self-directed warmth measurably reduces cortisol and activates the brain's caregiving circuits. The same circuits activated when a parent soothes a distressed child. You are becoming for yourself the parent your nervous system always needed. The second tool addresses the inner critic directly, and it requires a crucial reframe first. That voice that tells you that you are too much, too sensitive, not enough. That voice is not the truth about who you are. It is a survival strategy. It was installed by a young brain that discovered, early on, that self-criticism was safer than the alternative. If you criticized yourself first, the external criticism hurt less. If you made yourself small, you were less of a target. The inner critic was not your enemy. It was your armor. But armor worn long enough feels like skin. The practice is called inner critic dialogue. When the critical voice arrives, instead of collapsing into it or fighting it, try addressing it directly in writing. In your notes app, write, I hear you. I know you are trying to protect me, but I am safe now. I do not need this protection today. You are not silencing the voice. You are updating its brief. You are telling the protector that the war it was fighting is over. The third tool is somatic grounding. Because remember, this lives in the body, not just the mind. When the emotional flashback arrives, your nervous system is convinced it is in the past. Your body is flooded with the chemistry of an old threat. The fastest way to bring your nervous system back to the present is through physical sensation in the here and now. Press your feet flat against the floor. Feel the specific texture beneath them. Name 5 things you can physically see in the room around you. Run cold water over your wrists. These are not coping tricks. They are neurological interrupts. They send real-time sensory data to your amygdala. Data that the present moment is different from the stored memory, that the threat is old, that the body is here, now, safe. Polyvagal researcher Deb Dana calls this finding your anchor. The anchor is any sensory experience that is undeniably present because the frightened child lives in the past, and the present moment is the one place it cannot follow you. Here is what I want you to hold on to after today. That scared child inside you is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of survival. It is the part of you that found a way to keep going inside an environment that was too big, too loud, too unpredictable for a small person to fully process. It did what it had to do, it kept you here, but it does not have to keep running the show. The adult you have become has something that child never had. The ability to choose the response. The ability to pause before the flood takes over. The ability to say, and with warmth, not frustration, I see you, and I've got this now. You were not broken by what happened to you. You were shaped by it, and anything that was shaped can be reshaped, not by force, not overnight, but one moment of reparenting at a time. The child inside you does not need you to go back and fix the past. It just needs to know that the person in charge now is someone it can finally trust.